Hey man, it's nice to finally actually get to see you.
It is, man. It's great to see you.
you know, so everyone, this is Jamie Daves, right?
Yes, sir.
You know your name is kind of a tongue twister for me, bro. I don't know if you ever gotten that growing up because I
I,
want I want to say your name every time I read it. I want to say Davy James, but it's
Look,
not.
I'm named after my dad, so everyone calls me Jimmy James Jr. Uh, uh, that's my nickname in our hometown. He's Jim. I'm Jamie. We're both James. So, uh, but yeah, never been Mr. Daves. I've been Mr. Davies, Mr. Davis, never Mr. Daves. And
Never
you're the
Mr.
first person to actually say that right without me telling them in my
That's
entire life.
what. Maybe it's because my name is David, and I know all the the Dave, Davy, Dave, all that. So
Yeah.
David, and so my son's name is David, and my grandson's also David, and we call him Davy. So
Hell yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, but I with the last name, I always explained it like Cheech and Chong. I'm like, man, it's Dave's home, man. It's Dave plural, man. Dave's like just always went back to Up in Smoke to try to explain it to people.
that's funny. So man, who the hell are you, and why am I interviewing you? First and
Man, I'm trying to figure that out right now. It's still blowing my mind. Uh, I'm sorry if I don't look kind of starstruck. I am kind of talking to the goat. Uh, it's a big deal for me. But my name's Jamie. Man, I've actually, fortunately and unfortunately, I was born into law enforcement. I've had to deal with it since the day I was born. Uh, my father and my mother are career LEOs. My older brother, my sister is a dispatcher. My older brother is the deputy.
wow.
I have 17 uncles and aunts in law enforcement in this state. And for the most part, a lot of them do the job. Most of them still don't understand the Bill of Rights whatsoever.
You have a video that you posted on your Instagram. And it's the video of your father's last day. Um,
Yeah,
your sister was the one working dispatch that day.
yeah, she's a dispatcher for Oklahoma Highway Patrol. I don't know if she is. I think she's at a different job now. But at that time, she was a dispatcher for OHP and the sheriff, Damon Devereaux of Logan County. But she they let her do that call out, and that maybe one of three times in my life I've seen a tear come to that man's eye. Was really surprised he did it on the news. I didn't see him do it at his dad's funeral, but he did it. He did it
Wow,
on the news. Uh,
wow. Do, do
I was shocked. That actually brought tears to my eyes watching that. I've watched that video a lot of times since it was put on YouTube.
so you have been your whole family's in law enforcement. So you've been around the whole back the blue. You grown up listening to that whole propaganda?
I mean, and most of my life, and even until one of the first times I was arrested as a teenager, my it was a complete shit show. The cop was mostly doing it because we pissed him purely off. We It was kids running their mouth. We knew he didn't know what he was saying. That was true, so we just ran our mouth as dumb kids. And my father backed the cop and let his
Wow.
son go to juvenile detention. But my father gave his mom a DUI. And when I was 6 or 7, rode with my dad to have his mom get a DUI after 2 beers of bingo. So I kind of knew how that should have went. Uh,
Wow.
I wasn't shocked if that tells you if that I expected to go to jail that night. His first oath, and he's made it clear to his kids, was to the law. He wish he would have went to law library, picked up a law book, and he knows a lot of reasons to take you to jail, not a whole lot not to take you to jail.
Wow.
And he can tell me 1,000 reasons to arrest me at any moment. But he can't tell me why he can't arrest me, and that terrifies the hell out of me. And I realized that at a young age, and yeah, the horror stories I've heard that was braggadocious. I don't know how much of it was cops just sitting around playing cards and bragging, but I listened talk about shootings like we talked about scoring touchdowns. I watched them talk about whooping a kid's ass like we just hit the home run to win the game. Like you talked about your kids graduating high school, they talked about violence, and that stuck out to me, and that's how I knew my path was going to be different than how most Dave's boys' path goes. I love my father. I spent 2.5 hours with my father yesterday. He gave me a shotgun that my grandpa, that was one of my grandpa's old shotguns yesterday. Set it in the closet when I got home today. I mean, love the dude. Great dad. Awesome friend. I mean, we deer hunt together. We do so much together. But when it comes to qualified immunity and it being abused, even he knows it's abused on a daily basis. And he's opened up a lot more about, what should have and could have been done since he retired.
You believe in our work. You and I have been talking on Instagram back and forth.
Wholeheartedly.
Boy, I gotta tell you, man, you make me laugh every day when I turn on my Instagram and I see your memes. My wife is busting up laughing next to me. My son comes in, hey, Dad, you see this? And we're just sitting there laughing,
I love
dude.
it.
You are freaking hilarious. I'm gonna drop your Instagram link in the description so people can know what the hell I'm talking about. But you believe in our work. Aside from all the memes and everything, you reached out to me and you said, hey, man, I really love your channel. I love your work. I love what you represent. And we started talking. I had no idea before I started talking to you that your parents were in law enforcement. And the more maybe it's the way you reached out to me, which made me kind of like pay attention and say, okay, I'll talk to this guy because obviously he supports us and knows what he's talking about, right? And
I try to be genuine as myself. My goal is never to be like every cop's there. My goal is to say to qualified immunity, all it does is help guilty people. If they wouldn't need qualified immunity to cover them if they weren't found guilty of the crime that they're accused of. Or they wouldn't need to be covered by qualified. If they were innocent, they would just be innocent. But when they have to use qualified immunity, you have to be wrong. So I have a big problem with it. I have a problem with. I've seen the amount of violence that I've seen in my lifetime, and unfortunately, it's gotten worse. It's not gotten better. It's there's clean shootings that happen every day. There's cops that have to get in fist fights. There's cops that have to fight for their lives every day. It's crazy, but as Americans, we're fighting for our lives, and we don't know who to go to for help right now because we're afraid it might cost us our life to call 911 and be a little erratic or be hysterical. Like, if I'm an emotional person, as it is, I speak with my hands. It's part of how my humor comes out. That could get my ass whooped by a cop having a bad day, and it should never be America, ever.
Man, bro, that makes a hell of a lot of sense. And in reality, man, you have, I would say, a lot of insight because you've seen what it's like to be on the side of law enforcement, even though you yourself are not in law enforcement. You never were in law enforcement, right?
Never.
Okay.
Never.
So,
I've spent about 20 nights in county jail between my early 20s and late teens, but I didn't get. I was behind the doors, not on the other side of them, and generally was getting. I've had the cops put me in general population in the county. My dad was a lieutenant of his sheriff's office. Throw me in like 2 hours. Come in a panic, like he's alive. Oh my god, he's got the same name as the cop that's thrown 60% of the people in this jail in here.
Wow,
like,
man.
The idiocracy that goes into our government is sad, and there doesn't need to end. You know it from having conversations with cops every day, like, and to not feel patronized by the lack of knowledge of the job that's the first word of their title, law enforcement. They're just enforcement. What's the law part? Because I watch hours of videos every day. I spend a good portion of my time if I'm not out in person watching police on the internet. And where's the law? I want to know about the law because I'm tired of citizens teaching them it.
Right. No shit. We're not taught law in school. We're not taught law at home because our parents weren't taught law in school. It seems odd because you have to pretty much carry a law book. You have to, when you get in trouble, you got to hire an attorney. When a cop violates your rights, he has his attorney already paid for.
And even if he messes up, the union's only there to protect him. It don't care if he's wrong. It don't care if he's right. I mean, he could shoot 12 kids in the face, or he could run in and save him from a burning building. The union's going to support him with the same back, the same power, spend the same money, use the same attorneys. They don't care about right or wrong. And we don't have that. We have an attorney that if he doesn't see a chance of him getting a W, he's going to settle for the least loss he can take. And
Right.
it's became a numbers game. And there's the fact that it's, well, man, I can't get a win, so what's the least loss I can take in this case? Well, take this plea because I don't want to go to trial. And when every attorney should want to go to trial, every attorney should want that moment to make, I'm going to convince this jury that this person is innocent. But man, I mean, that's just, I don't know how much courtrooms you've been in, but I've never seen that. And, it's been 15 years since I've been in trouble, but I ain't seen that in any courtroom I've sat in.
Right. If a district attorney goes through with trying to convict somebody and somebody gets convicted, if the district attorney knows, for instance, like there's body cam footage, and maybe somebody doesn't even have to bring it up, maybe something that the district attorney sees or knows that the person's rights were violated. If the district attorney prosecutes knowing that, should absolute immunity be taken away from the district attorney?
Absolutely. I mean, it should. And that's the only reason they don't do their duty in that, is because when you have an excuse of ignorance immediately, and that's what that immunity is. Like let your kid not go to school for a week and ask where your immunity is. No, they'll lock you up for your kid skipping school. Hell, in the 90s when I was in school, I could not go for a month before they called my parents. They didn't send the police to my house.
Hey, I used to write my own notes. Please excuse David.
You know how many notes I hear that didn't sign the sheriff because I was too dumb to sign my dad's name. I just wrote the sheriff.
The sheriff. Oh my god!
It always blew. Like one of my first instances when I knew, like as a young kid, my dad got shot when I was 6.5 years old, and the doctor told us all go in to say goodbye to Dad, and 3.5 months later he was in another shooting. So like experiencing that, and then realizing like that's not the only hard part of that, because then that next summer or spring I played football. I'm from a town of 12,000 people called Guthrie, Oklahoma. In the 80s and 90s when I was growing up, it was even less. It's about 12 to 15,000 now. And I'd go play football. We all have sleepovers after the end of summer and go, and I keep noticing my buddy's mom's crying. And I'm like, and I've always been a pretty intuitive guy. That's what makes me funny. I read body language. My dad's a cop. My mom, I've been taught to read situations. I don't know how they're thinking, so I got to read them. Figure out how I'm going to get away with some shit tonight, And I asked her, what's wrong? She told me she was scared to tell me. And I asked her why. She said she's afraid my dad would kill her. She told me what was wrong with her. And I was blown back by that. And I said, what do you mean by that? And she goes, I don't mean your dad's evil. I mean, your dad killed my brother. That shooting that my dad had been in was her brother. And now that officer's son's spending the night at her house playing football with her son and her nephews. And, we're wrestling in the yard and playing catch and playing G.I. Joes and running around. And what this woman had to go through just to be a good mom for her son's friend. And, like when she broke down to that, and I had a realization at a really young, that was probably in Pee Wee football, 6th, 7th grade, and it just learning that I was like, this life, my path is different, that I'm going to have to deal with things. And it helped me, if I knew I was going to catch shit for my dad being a cop in high school. My older brother did, my sisters did, everyone did. I just knew I had to punch a dude in the face. It wasn't a big deal. Just start socking fools, it'll be all right. But I never thought about that aspect. I never thought that I would sleep on the couch of a woman who's my dad shot her brother.
Wow.
And unfortunately, like I had to do that in my hometown. My dad was involved in 4 shootings in Guthrie in the 80s.
That
And
had that had to not have just been like really odd and weird for her to be in that situation, but for you as well, right?
but I can empathize with it now as an adult. But as a child, like it was so hard not to get stuck on the why does this lady hate my dad, you know? And I wish I had a better understanding as a child. But even though we talked for probably, it probably stint longer, but probably 10, 15 minutes, we had a discussion about why it was so hard for her. Like she's like, you're a sweet kid, you're a great friend of my son. She's like, I want to just like take pictures and love, but she's like, every time I look at you, she's like, I see, I every time I say your name, I'm saying the name of the man that shot my brother.
Wow, bro.
And
Damn.
that wasn't the part that my parent, I didn't get warned. Like, hey, shit could get weird over there. We just didn't talk about that. Your dad's a cop. Move on. That's life. Like everyone has a job. Your dad's job is a cop. He's Captain America.
Damn. Do you mind? Can I show the video of the Instagram that you showed of
You
your
can show
father?
whatever you like, bro.
All right, let's show that really quick.
If I tear up, sorry, it's my Papa Bear. I do love him so.
K-109, go ahead.
County, I'm Parker Darko after 7 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, and myself after 45 years, 1 month, 2 weeks, and 3 days, in 7, final time.
Sergeant Jim Bates, badge number K-109. We acknowledge this is your final 10-7 with the Logan County Sheriff's Office. We would like to thank you for your service, not only to our community, but to our country as well for a total of over 45 years. Thank you for your hard work, determination, and friendship. We want to congratulate you on your retirement and sincerely hope you the best in whatever follows next. Best wishes and good luck. Final 10-7 time, 13:59 hours.
I'm a little taller than him.
Is your
I'm
dad?
not 5. I made it to 5'9". I wish they would have got the dog out. The best part about him is his partner. And man, like I grew up as a child. My dad's been a canine cop also my whole life. So from about age 12 up, I was in a bite suit twice, 1 to 2 times a week, 3 times a month, every week of my childhood. So like the things that I heard on a daily basis, that was probably 90% bragging BS. But what it did was it formed an opinion because I knew I was the public. I knew even as a kid that I wasn't a cop, that these guys were the cops. And they're talking about the public. And the more that I realized it, the more it terrified me. And I got a lot of really funny stories about my dad and the guy that's his boss, the Sheriff named Devereaux, in that video for another time.
So I want to show a clip of a video, and I'm not going to show the whole video. I'm just going to show a clip. But what was crazy was you had told me a little bit about your parents and everything, and you being from Oklahoma, and none of that clicked. A video was sent to me, and they told me to review it and check it out. They're like, wow, have you ever seen this one? Why did you never cover this? And I was like, wow, dude, I'm going to go ahead and make a video on it. So I edit the video, I upload it, and then I start reading your comments in that video, and I was totally blown away. Something that you said was your mom was working dispatch the day that call was made.
Yeah, I was listening to the scanner. My mom wanted to be a cop in the 80s, and then she almost shot some kids when she was washing her car at the job corps, so she became to be a dispatcher. I can get into that story. It's funnier and shit too. She became dispatcher. She went to Edmond in like the late 90s, and she just retired from there in June of last year. She's director of communications for Edmond. So I've always had a scanner because I'd set it on the county that if they called out K9 for my dad, because they always call K9 out for the scary stuff. So, or in our instances, a dude holding the camera. One of the two, it's either someone, robbed someone and ran on foot, or there's a guy holding a camera at a traffic stop. You know, it's one of those two things.
How
But
many calls have you heard up to that point of people with cameras?
now it's hard to know if it's on cameras on the scanner when they're calling out. I don't hear it where I'm at now because in the city, but when I was living in Edmond, I constantly heard a lot of people, especially Tim. That's how I learned of Tim, is because I'd hear him talk on scanner. I'd go on YouTube, look for his videos. I went on and found that video, and like I remember turning it on as they were approaching him with like pistols drawn on him. I'm like, hey man, like dude's basically walking his dog. It's on his back. The gun's only deadly with a finger on the trigger. I ain't never met a deadly gun on someone's back. Never met a deadly gun on someone's hip. You know, I've carried concealed a gun for 17 years. I had never been deadly once because I've never pulled it on somebody.
Nice.
That's so to approach that man. They started off, but the calls, you could tell there was 911 calls coming in left and right I mean, they probably received 100 911 calls from people around that park, and they shut down a square mile. Well, in that square mile of Edmond is like 2 high schools, a college, and so
Yeah.
it was the perfect location that he did it to show people like, hey guys, this is absolutely ridiculous. Like every cop that showed up on that, I bet my pinky had that gun in their car. And most of them probably used one to shoot that kid later that day that they killed.
So they actually,
reason that wasn't.
later that day they shot and killed someone?
If it wasn't that day, it was in the next day, because why that got completely swept under the rug, because those officers messed up a lot. They said a lot of things they shouldn't have said. They now I don't know if any of them did anything that would go so far as like violating the law that would make their qualified immunity go away or cost the city, but they said things that didn't make the department look great. And there was a lot of between their the guy should have done a public records request on all the dispatch, because all the calls and all the text messages between officers, because like hearing the conversations of the panic, you literally would have thought he had a bazooka. You would have thought he fired off already, or he was pointing a gun, walking around with the gun at the ready, but it slung across his back. It might as well have been a purse.
Damn, let me play a quick clip of this video so people can know what video we're talking about. That one's on my San Joaquin News Network channel, but you can also find this video on Oklahoma Taxpayers United. And
what happens, because if we back,
yeah, I met this dude at the tax commission building. I was getting up to date on my taxes, and this dude and a couple of the News Now guys walked into the Oklahoma Tax Commission and just started busting balls like out of the gate. And that's how I recognized his voice. I'm not sure his name, but like I was just sitting there like trying to get up to date on my taxes so I could get my tax return money. And, they come in with cameras and to see those cops. That was great. Like you might have to look for that video, but yeah, he was the only one. The other guys he's with were douches, but he cracked me up in that video. Like he was on point, like stayed on, but he gave those officers hell at the tax commission. And just scrolled through like he owned the building.
If you ever find that video, send me the link. I want to check it out. And did you come out in that video?
I was sitting there looking, and they might have panned across me. I was sitting there with a shocked look on my face, like this is how it's supposed to be done. It's so easy for people to be like, you should have done this or you should have said that. Like, oh, you shouldn't ID. Like the emotion that comes through you when confronted by armed people, that like it blows my mind how easy people are quick to judge a guy. Like I hear a lot. There's a lot of times I watch auditors that even I've been like, I would have done this. I'm like, oh yeah, but I also probably would have been pretty intimidated in that situation as a man.
Yeah.
No matter you know, and like to expect that, like. That's why like it's so easy for guys to flip out and scream at officers, because like the amount of emotion you're confronted with in that moment is insane. It's like bungee jumping or getting in a car wreck.
And I'll tell you something, bro. That rush never dies because every officer is different. Every officer's level of bad behavior is different. So you got to approach every cop watch a little differently. Every interaction differently. I mean, definitely, you have to be understanding of what your rights are. You have to know what your rights are because I'm totally different now than when I first started. And I'll be honest, I was really scared, dude. I hated
I
cops.
bet. I
Back in
bet, dude.
yeah, back in the day, I don't know if it
Dude, the
was because
videos when they were coming to your house, like asking for people's name that wasn't there,
yeah,
the amount of emotion I heard in those voices, that's what made me be like, I mean, like you've helped me grow as a man. Like a father is supposed to help someone grow as a man because I understand those emotions. Because me as a kid, if I snuck out of my house and go sneak out behind the barn and smoke a joint, my dad would push my window shut, lock it, and then hide in the corner and put a gun to my head when I came through the door. So I learned a lesson. I didn't get yelled at or spanked. I literally got to hear a hammer cocked next to my temple because, and he made the point, I'm a cop. People are out to get me. This may be someone to come to kill the whole family in the middle of the night. You don't even though that's the most ridiculous fucking do your job and that will never happen. Understand the Bill of Rights and don't abuse qualified immunity. That should never happen ever.
right. Do you think that police officers should live in the communities that they patrol?
Absolutely, dude. I don't think it gets brought up enough. And see, my dad didn't do like when my dad first in a period of 6 years, he had quite a bit of shootings when he first became a cop. So in my childhood in the 80s and late 70s and 80s when he came home from Vietnam, and he had a run in Kingfisher and Guthrie PD where he shot quite a few people, and then he decided to move to county and work for a county that was not the county we lived in, and he did that until he came back to Logan County, and then he lived in Logan County, was there. But in my life, that was just my same thing. My mother worked for Edmond; she lived in Guthrie, and that always bothered me because you're getting paid from those cities' dollars. And you don't have an oath of ownership of citizenship of that place. Like when I walk around my community and I see garbage, I pick it up because I'm earning ownership and I'm building a name for my community. If I see a cop run a stop sign, it irritates the hell out of me because I'm like, dude, take some ownership of my community, please. You're the one that took an oath. None of us begged anyone to become a cop. We all appreciate them. We all appreciate the ones that go in and fight. We all understand they're all going to have bad moments, and we all do. But that doesn't mean you get to violate the rights of an American citizen. That's treason, in my opinion. And you just literally attack the very oath you took. And you might as well punch him. You might as well kick him. And the cops have to realize that, from the stories I've heard in my life, you would believe that you would have thought you had to shoot or damn near beat someone to death to get in trouble as a cop. And that was a big thing as a kid. I was like, I want to become a cop, like I get to do anything. And that was one of those things that I realized, like, oh man, that's actually highly, highly abused. And at a very young age, I realized like I would probably be the worst cop ever made. And I'm gonna do not only save myself from just hating every moment of me. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna educate myself, and I'm gonna be funny, and I'm gonna love, and I'm gonna laugh. What I'm not gonna do is tell people what they're doing with their life is wrong, and especially if I don't know the law. I mean, that's just my father told me.
They act like counselors, huh? Sometimes.
Yeah.
They have everything. They know it all. They have all their shit together.
Yeah.
They abide by the law. Apparently, like supposedly they put on a badge and a gun. It's like,
yeah,
it's hero time, folks. Shit.
Man, I have a lot of stories I would love to tell you off camera because I don't want to get anyone in trouble.
Right.
But I have hilarious stories, and they would only reaffirm you why you believe what you believe.
Let me say something really quick. You and I are going to stay on, Jamie, so hang on. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. I'm going to start a new channel called San Joaquin Podcasts, and I'm going to be interviewing people. This is probably going to be the first video on the San Joaquin Podcast. Let me know if you guys want to see more interviews of me and Jamie. I want to definitely hear his stories. I want to hear a lot more of him. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you want to watch the rest of this video, I'm going to upload this to San Joaquin Podcast channel. This video will already be uploaded there. I'm gonna go ahead and continue talking to Jamie. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you on the next video. My official first podcast is done and my channel is created, San Joaquin Podcast. I'll leave the link in the description. Make sure you guys go subscribe to that channel. I'm going to be doing this frequently. I like this. I like talking to people. And I talk to a lot of people behind the scenes anyways. I figured, why not start recording these conversations and putting them out there? Thank you guys for tuning in. Go subscribe to the new channel and go watch the full podcast. We talk for about another hour. I'll see you guys over there. Thank you.